Givardhari. Yasodhanandana Vrajatanaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvadhari Yasodhanandana Pratyachadaranjana Yasodhanandana Pratyachadaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Prabhujakacharya Stutara Satashri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Srimad Bhagavatam Gantaraj Ki Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Gaur Premanand. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 9, Text 6. Tāvad bhayaṁ draviṇa-deha-suhṛn-nimittaṁ. śokaḥ spṛhā paribhavo vipulaś lobhaḥ. tāvan mamety asad-avagraha ārti-mūlaṁ. yāvan ṅghrim abhayaṁ pravṛṇīta lokaḥ. Okay, try this one. Tāvad bhayaṁ draviṇa-deha-suhṛn-nimittaṁ. śokaḥ spṛhā vipulaś lobhaḥ. tāvan mamety asad-avagraha ārti-mūlaṁ. yāvan ṅghrim abhayaṁ paribhavo lokaḥ. tāvad bhayam draviṇa-deha-suhṛn-nimittaṁ śokaḥ spṛhā paribhavo vipulaś lobhaḥ tāvan mamety asad-avagraha ārti-mūlaṁ yāvan ṅghrim bhayaṁ pravṛṇīta lokaḥ. Prabhus. Mataji's. Tāvat, until then, bhayam, fear, draviṇa, wealth, deha, body, suhṛt, relatives, nimittam, for the matter of, śokaḥ, lamentation, spṛhā, desire, paribhavo, paraphernalia, vipulaḥ, very great, śokaḥ, also, lobhaḥ, avarice, tāvat, up to that time, mama, mine, iti, thus, asat, perishable, avagraha, undertaking, ārti-mūlaṁ, full of anxieties, yāvat, as long as, na, do not, te, your, ṅghrim abhayaṁ, safe lotus feet, pravṛṇīta, take shelter, lokaḥ, the people of the world. Translation, O my Lord, the people of the world are embarrassed by all the material anxieties. They are always afraid. they always try to protect wealth, body, and friends. They're filled with lamentation and unlawful desires and paraphernalia, and they avariciously base their undertakings on the perishable conceptions of my and mine. As long as they do not take shelter of your safe lotus feet, they are full of all such anxieties. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. One may question, how can one always think of the Lord in regard to his name, fame, quality, etc., if one is embarrassed by thoughts of family affairs? Everyone in the material world is full of thoughts about how to maintain his family, how to protect his wealth, how to keep pace with friends and relatives, etc. Thus he is always in fear and lamentation, trying to keep up with the status quo. In answer to this question, this verse spoken by Brahma is very appropriate. A pure devotee of the Lord never thinks himself as the proprietor of his home. He surrenders everything unto the supreme control of the Lord, and thus he has no fear for maintaining his family or protecting the interests of his family. Because of this surrender, he no longer has any attraction for wealth. Even if there is attraction for wealth, it is not for sense enjoyment, but for the service of the Lord. A pure devotee may be attracted to accumulating wealth just like an ordinary man. But the difference is that the devotee acquires money for the service of the Lord, whereas an ordinary man acquires money for his sense enjoyment. Thus the acquisition of wealth by a devotee is not a source of anxieties, as is the case for a worldly man. I've lost the place. And because a pure devotee accepts everything in the sense of serving the Lord, the poisonous teeth of accumulated wealth are extracted. If a snake has its poison removed and bites a man, there is no fatal effect. Similarly, wealth accumulated in the cause of the Lord has no poisonous teeth, and effect is not fatal. A pure devotee is never entangled in material world affairs, even though he may remain in the world like an ordinary man. Ajnana-timirandasya jananjana salakaya chaksu unmilitam yena tasme Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukam karoti vachalam pangam langayate girim yat kripata maham bande tarine durgame padimendasya skalat pate gatirmuhu svakripa yustu danena shantu shantu avalambanam. So we are up to text 6 now in this epic chapter of Lord Brahma's prayers. So Lord Brahma is going from one verse to another discussing different topics. So it is maybe beneficial that I'll just quickly recap where we're at. So here in this chapter, in the beginning, Lord Brahma has just finished his 100 years of tapasya. And after that, remember, his tapasya, Lord Krishna said within just to vibrate tap, ta and pa. So Lord Brahma took up that message, those instructions, and meditated, did his tapasya, and then the Lord revealed his wonderful form, all the attributes, the spiritual world, Vrindavan, and we have the beautiful Brahma Samhita describing the glories of the Lord. So when Lord Brahma saw this wonderful personality, he understood this was the Supreme Being and the creator of everything, material and the spiritual. And that although the Lord is diversified through so many of his different expansions and energies and so many forms, incarnations, avatars, is still not touched by any of the material energy that is floating here in this material universe. And is the object, worshipable object of all the devotees in slokas. Number 4, he became very severe on the impersonalists because the impersonalists, they ignore this form, Satchidananda-vigraha. We all know Satchidananda, eternity, bliss, knowledge, that beautiful form of the Lord, which is eternity, bliss and knowledge. Form is eternity, bliss and knowledge. That's the Lord's form. But the impersonalists are thinking, no form exists outside this material universe. Therefore, they assume that the Supreme Lord's created this material matter. Is the manifestation of the mode of goodness? Must be. Actually, one of the recent popular exports out of India, very popular in the West, is name is Sadhguru. You ever heard the name Sadhguru? He looks the part. You know, he's just like one of those 60s gurus with the sort of long hair and the beard, the turban. They're very, very popular. So he was discussing Krishna, and somebody sent me a tape. Oh, Sadhguru talks about Krishna. All right, we'll listen to hear what he says about Krishna. And his statement ultimately was that Krishna is the perfect human being. So what is that? Impersonalism, right? So someone should send this sloka by Lord Brahma, 5th sloka, how saying the impersonalists are going to hell, and see what he thinks of that. So in the next verse, in the 5th verse, that was the 4th verse. So in the 5th verse, Lord Brahma praises the devotees. And now we have today's sloka, right? Text number 6. And we get the feeling that he's showing compassion for these poor, bewildered, conditioned souls who are coming into this universe because they're sort of so much desiring to enjoy what Lord Brahma is about to create. But they're falling into a trap, judging from what Lord Brahma says in this sloka. In Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 7, text 27, you know that? Ichudvesa samuttina dvanve mohana bharata sarvabhutni samoham sarvagiyanta parantapa. O sign of Bharat, conqueror of all of foe, everyone is born into delusion, bewildered by the dualities of the material energy, which is arisen by desire and hate, the dualities. So in our delusion, what is the delusion? Everybody's born into delusion. So delusion is that we have forgotten our eternal relationship with Krishna, and we try to enjoy separately. So that brings out these dualities. So we all know what the dualities of the material world are. Hot and cold, love and hate, pain and pleasure. Got something else written here. Heat and cold, did I say that? Dualities, right? So they're there. And so we become affected by all these dualities. So, and therefore we're struggling very much with it. And that creates socha, just like here, socha, hankering and lamentation. So socha is so hankering for the pleasure and then lamenting when it's taken away. So this is the ichudvesa-samutana, the delusion. In Christianity, has anybody practiced Christianity here? So like, Maybe Hinduism, yeah. So in Christianity, we're all born with the original sin. You've all heard that before? So Christians believe we have come into this world with the original sin. I'm trying to work out how come we take birth and the sin comes with us like a package. Here, take this package, put it in, here's your original sin. But if we can understand that material desires, everyone is born with material desires, as I said here. Everyone was born into delusion. The delusion is material desires. We're separate from Krishna. So that is our original sin, that we've turned away from Krishna and we've been attracted by that glimmer of that material energy that we can enjoy. What is that over there? That energy looks very attractive and we forget Krishna. So anyone in this material world is born with this, even Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma is not free either. So he's also in charge of Rajagun. We all know that he's in charge of the mode of passion. Even though he's situated in literally pure goodness, but every now and then he just makes a slip, just like when he was producing from his mind the four Kumaras, and they came out and he said, oh, you beautiful souls, now I want you to propagate the universe. All these living entities, they're white hot in this lotus stem that I'm sitting on top of, on my lotus flower. They want to come out, they want to enjoy, but first we have to propagate the bodies. Can you please go ahead and perform that function? And Lord Brahma and the four Kumaras, they said, no, we're not going to get involved, sorry. We just see this entanglement in this material world, and we refuse to do so. So Lord Brahma goes, very surprised, what, you've refused my order? And for a moment he became angry, just a little bit angry, and what happened? Rudra came out of his forehead, manifestation of anger. Right? So Srila Prabhupada says that we were all Brahmas once. I find it very difficult to understand, but the point is that Maya is so clever that any slight interaction with the mode of material nature and you're trapped. Just we might want to come in the mode of goodness. We want to be Lord Brahma. We want to create and do good things. But then there is Maya. She is waiting, very, very clever. And then we put our foot in it and we're caught, right? Like caught in the trap. No one is spared in the material world. Anyone who takes birth in the material world, in a material body, gets trapped by Maya. And what happens then? Brahmanda Brahmate Kona Bhagavan Jiva. So then we are traveling up and down the universe, up in the higher planets, back down here, back into the lower planets, and up and down. And we have been through the yugas so many times. We all know the yugas, don't we? Satya, Treta, Dwapar, and Kali. So in Satya Yuga, very, very long time, we're meditating. We had up to 100,000 years of our life. And there was a process of liberation. But meditation is quite difficult. We hear about all the sages who meditated, what, for 10,000 years or so many thousands of years. So we didn't make it. We didn't get liberated. So we come to the next stage, right? So we come to Treta Yuga. So in Treta Yuga, all the godly qualities are diminished by 25%. But then we get to perform yajnas and chanting mantras with precision, precise mantras, and all these wonderful things happen. And that's the process for liberation, glorification of the Lord through the chanting of mantras and fire yajnas, but we got burnt, we didn't make it. Now we're back in Dwapar Yuga now. So 50% of all religious qualities are gone. So now we're engaged in the elaborate temple worship, worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his forms, Lakshmi Narayan, Lakshmi Nrsimha, I know so many others. And then the thing that comes to mind, the shastra that comes to my mind is the Narad Pancharatrika. And it's very, very complicated, all the different processes. Not easy to follow. We didn't make it back to Godhead then either. And here we are in Kali Yuga. Welcome to Kali Yuga. We're sleeping our way right into Kali Yuga here. Right, 75% of all the good qualities are gone. And it's a very, very dangerous place to be in. Just like if anybody's been to some of these dangerous cities around the world, like New York or Johannesburg, you stay in the middle. As soon as you go on the outer, then your life is in great danger. Padam, padam, na vipadam. So, in Kali Yuga, prayanopayasha sabya kalo asmin yuge jana mandasu mandamateo mandabhagyo padruta. So, learned one, in this iron age of Kali, men have but short lives, quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and almost always disturbed. I think I got them all. So Srila Prabhupada calls the society that we have in this Kali Yuga. Somebody asked him, Prabhupada, what do you think of our society here in Melbourne? It's a society of polished cats and dogs. Polished cats and dogs. That's the behavior: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. So, the good qualities left. What is the good quality? One quality left in Kali Yuga, everything else is gone. What's that quality that's left? Truthfulness. Thank you very much. So, in this decade now, there is a new term that has been coined for the last 10 or 15 years or so. It's called fact-checking. Have you heard that? Fact-checking. So it's hard to tell the difference between truth or lies when the prime ministers, the presidents, the politicians, people in charge, and so-called other benefactors are speaking. So they all need to be fact-checked. Is what they're saying right? Is that a fact or not? And the truth then becomes relevant according to the speaker, according to people's materialistic viewpoints. So that is another symptom of Kali, which is predicted in the Srimad Bhagavatam, that religion becomes irreligion and irreligion becomes religion, vice versa. Nobody knows the difference. People become confused. Is that what we are today? So in Kali Yuga, the fear factor becomes very strong. We all become fearful. And this is Lord Brahma speaking in this sloka. So now we read the sloka, we can understand a little bit clearer. Oh my Lord, the people of the world are embarrassed by all the material anxieties. They're always afraid. They always try to protect wealth, body and friends. They're filled with lamentation and unlawful desires and paraphernalia. And they avariciously base their undertakings on the perishable concepts of my, I, me, and mine. That's what we say, but here it says my and mine. Right? I, me, and mine. As long as they do not take shelter of your safe lotus feet, they're full of such anxiety. So these people in so much anxiety. So here we are. In the beginning, Lord Brahma is praying to the Lord, and all the living entities are trapped up in that stell, and they're coming out. They can't wait to come and enjoy the material world. And after being in the material world, this is the situation they find themselves in, completely subjugated by the material nature. And Maya, she's like the puppeteer. She's pulling the strings, and the people are dancing according to different modes, sattva, raja, and guna. And the deeper the mode, the more distressed they become because they're so frustrated, confused. So, this is the conditioning. So the more you have, the greater the anxiety, and the mind, mana, the mind. Mind is never satisfied, so much pressure is there. Mind is never in a good place, not even at night. We have all these bad dreams at night. I don't know, for me, the bad dreams seem to outweigh the good dreams. The bad dreams, we lose everything. We lose our fortune. We've been chased by bad people. So does anybody else have those dreams, or just my paranoia? So, I mean, it's much nicer to dream of Krishna, so much nicer. And that happens sometimes also. So that's why Srila Prabhupada gave us this formula: simple living and high thinking. Simply take what you need for your material needs. Yogam yunjam madashraya. Because the purpose of this whole human existence is to control that mind, that avaricious mind. So in Bhagavad Gita, in the 7th chapter, in the first sloka, Maya shaktam mana parta yoga yunjam madashraya samsayam samagram mam yata jasasi touch shrinu. How by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. So in Kali Yuga, it is our unbelievable good fortune that by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the hidden incarnation in this age of Kali, where no avatar is supposed to come. This place is so degraded at this point in time, but Lord Chaitanya comes as a hidden devotee. Comes as a devotee, a hidden incarnation. He doesn't come as a Supreme Personality of Godhead, he comes as a devotee. And he helps us to extricate ourselves from Maya's clutches by simply following the process of sadhana bhakti and chanting the Maha Mantra. And it's given to us now by our disciplic succession and our wonderful preceptor Srila Prabhupada, who went through so much austerity just to bring this to us fallen, conditioned souls full of anxiety and fear, and he brought it to the West for us to absorb. So this is Kali. We might say this is very nice, we have this process, but we're still here in this age of Kali Yuga. We all have to survive somehow, and we have to interact in this material society. And then there's always that padam padam na vipadam na tesham, danger in every step of life in the society. So we have to be careful, tread very carefully. But we have one formula here, and that is called yukta vairagya, that we can apply everything in Krishna's service. Prabhupada explains this in the purport. Whether we are rich or we're poor, everything can be utilized in Krishna's service. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we have some very wonderful examples of practicing devotees. Raghunath Das, one of the 6 Goswamis. So he was born of fabulously rich parents, and his father's name was Govardhan. And Govardhan, he had so much wealth. He was a minister of so many villages, and he was also a very pious person, pious leader. He supported the Vaishnavas. He gave so much, but he had so much wealth. He had so much control, and he was completely absorbed in his position. He loved his position, and he wanted to pass it on to someone, just so he's not different from any other father who's married, has a beautiful wife. They want a heir, preferably a son, that someone who will actually keep the tradition, keep the family name, keep the fortune, increase the fortune, keep the reputation, the moral values, and produce children of their own to keep the lineage. Everybody wants that. Every father wants that. So, in Kali Yuga, actually, it is very difficult to produce a son like that. Ask any father. I've had 5 children. So, you know, you want to produce a son, and your son comes back from, have a son who sort of enhances your reputation. this is my son. You know, isn't it good? This is my this is my son. But your son comes back from school with lousy marks. And the parents have sacrificed so much. He locks himself in his room, puts his earphones on, and shuts out the world. What can you do? That's just one possible scenario. We see it often these days. How do you break that? That's in the West. So Govardhan's wife, she gave birth to a beautiful boy. They called him Raghunath. He was intelligent, he's obedient, and they had a family priest, and he was very, very religious. Then one day, the priest took him to see Haridas Thakur. Now, Haridas Thakur, he lived in a cave nearby. He had no possessions. And as soon as Raghunath saw, he was a young boy, as soon as Raghunath saw the face of Haridas, he was struck by the bliss on Haridas's face. He was someone. He had absolutely nothing. And he cared for nothing, but he was completely overwhelmed by the bliss of chanting the holy names of Hari, Krishna and Rama. So Raghunath's heart, it became changed forever. And he understood one thing, that the real wealth was the austerity of becoming attached to Krishna in this world, not material wealth. So he lost all ambition for maintaining his father's wealth and his prestige and everything else like that, and he just thought of how can I become like Haridas Thakur. So then he had the opportunity to meet up with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Of course, he's one of the most intimate disciples of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Chaitanya said, now is not the time, and he gave the example of that if there's a lady, she's married, she has a lover, then she does everything for the husband till she can make time to... He gave that example to leave. So then Raghunath waited. He tried to make so many breaks. He tried to break away and run over to Lord Chaitanya in Jagannath Puri, but his father had so many guards, and he'd catch him every time and bring him back. And again he'd try, and he'd bring him back again. So one day, the pujari at the temple was ill. So the temple was a little way from the house. So Raghunath said, I'll go and do the deities tonight. You put me in there, I'll do the deities tonight. So as soon as they let him go, he made a break for it. This time he made no mistake. He stayed on the back tracks, and it took him 11 days to go to Jagannath Puri. He nearly ran all the way. He only ate about 3 or 4 times a day, but he didn't care. He just wanted to go to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and take shelter of his lotus feet. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very, very happy to see him. And he actually gave him over to Swarup Damodar to take care of him. So then Raghunath began to live in Jagannath Puri. And then his father, of course, he found out there was nothing he could do. It was too late. He wasn't coming back. So his father would send him so much money to look after him, so he'd eat, you know, he could eat plenty and have lots of shelter and that. So Raghunath would have these huge feasts. They'd invite all the Vaishnavas in Jagannath Puri, and they'd all eat sumptuously, and he did this regularly. But then he became frustrated with that this was bordering on materialism, that people were enjoying too much. So he gave that up. He gave up his father's wealth. He renounced it. So then for his prasadam, he would wait with all the beggars on the main road. So you've all been to Jagannath Puri? Everyone's been to Jagannath, so I'm going, you'll see all these beggars in a row. So many beggars, isn't it? You wonder how they get fed. But at certain times, there's prasadam distribution. So Raghunath Das was waiting in the line. But then he thought, I feel like I'm a prostitute, that I'm going to be judgmental. Oh, this person is favourable, this person is not favourable. And his mind could not handle it, and he couldn't handle that type of sustenance either. So then he opted out for something else. So one day, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Swarup Damodar, where is Raghunath? What's he doing these days? How is he eating? And then Swarup Damodar explained, well, at night time he's going to where they throw out all the old prasadams. So we know in Jagannath Puri, all the pujaris, they get prasadam and they distribute it or they sell it to different people. And what is left over, they throw in a heap. And then all the cows and the dogs, they come and eat it, and then the rest is left over. So at night time, Raghunath would go and he'd get all the parts, pick out all the bad parts, and then keep the parts, wash it, and then he'd eat that. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, he's feasting every day. And he went to see Raghunath, just as Raghunath was about to eat a morsel of that food. And he said, Raghunath, what are you doing? And Raghunath said, oh, I'm not doing it. And he hid the prasadam behind his back, right? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was going, you're feasting, I know that, show me, what have you got? And then they started wrestling. And Lord Chaitanya took the prasadam from his hand and he started to eat it. And he said, this is the most unbelievable prasadam I've ever tasted in this whole universe. It is so good. And Swarup Damodar's trying to snatch it from my Lord, don't eat this prasadam, it's not for you, it's wasted. Like that. And Lord Chaitanya, he was tasting the austerities that Raghunath was feeling. That was the ecstasy of it, because that was the bliss that he was feeling out of love for Krishna. So Swarup Damodar looked after Raghunath, and then when Lord Chaitanya left the planet, left this material universe, Raghunath decided to end his life also. So he went to Vrindavan and he was going to jump off Govardhan Hill. That's it. And then, of course, when he got to Vrindavan, Rupa Goswami convinced him that actually this body is not yours, it belongs to Krishna. You have so much to do with this body. And he actually gave so many stories about Lord Chaitanya, who was there for so many years, and Swarup Damodar had instructed him on all of the conversations. And ultimately, this is where the Chaitanya Charitamrita comes from, that this is one of the sources that Krishna Das Kaviraj relied upon, that he got all the Ancha-lila from Raghunath Das. So Raghunath Das was a great devotee of Krishna, but he was an extreme example of renunciation. And Srila Prabhupada, he always told us not to become imitators and end up being bogey yogis. Have you heard that term, bogey yogi? Prabhupada used to say, don't become a bogey yogi and chant in some isolated place and think that you're spiritual. So, but for others, yukta vairagya, it can mean utilizing our wealth in Krishna's service, just like King Pratiparudra in Jagannath Puri. He was the king, and he was a stalwart devotee of Krishna, but he was also very, very Krishna conscious, and he had so much wealth and power, but he used it in Krishna's service. But he always wanted to meet Lord Chaitanya, but Lord Chaitanya, playing the role of the perfect sannyasi, was obliged to say no. He shunned him, even though he was a benefactor and well-wisher, Suridam Surit, the benefactor of all the devotees. He looked after the devotees, associated with devotees. But it's like in the presence of wealth, one can become bewildered. You can see that sometimes, I don't know, if people associate with wealthy people, they start acting differently around such people. You become affected. So Lord Chaitanya refused to meet with him. But on Rath Yatra day, King Pratiparudra, he swept the road wearing mendicant's clothes. He was sweeping the road with a broom before the Lord Jagannath's cart. And then they arranged somehow, Swarup Damodar arranged it, that when Lord Chaitanya was in the... Which garden is it in Jagannath Puri, please? Say it loud. Nanda. Okay.
Jagannath Vallabh Gardens.
Jai. He was in those gardens just resting because he'd been dancing. And you know that Lord Chaitanya danced simultaneously in front of 7 carts. So every devotee thought Lord Chaitanya, 7 groups, not 7 carts, 3 carts, 7 groups of chanting. And everybody thought Lord Chaitanya was dancing with them. So then he came up to Lord Chaitanya to start to massage his lotus feet, and chant some beautiful prayers from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and Lord Chaitanya was very pleased. So we also have Ramananda Roy. He was a government official, very powerful, very prestigious, but Lord Chaitanya took him in as his intimate associate. As we know, Ramananda Roy, he was an incarnation of Lalita Gopi and Arjuna. So he became one of the 3 most confidential servitors of the Lord. So then it comes to us. What about us? So there is an instruction from the Sri Upanishad that we can actually take great solace from. The first instruction, the first verse, Isavasya sarvam idam sarvam yat kinchid jagatam jagat tena tyaktena bunjita madgrida kasya sviddanam, that everything animate and inanimate that is within this universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. And therefore one should accept those things that are set aside as his quota, and one should not accept other things knowing well to whom they belong. They belong to Krishna. So that is the formula, that we accept what we need that is favourable for our Krishna consciousness, and we're happy with our lot in life. Different devotees have different gunas and karmas. Some have the ability to make money, some are born in rich families, others have no ability of making money. And still, that is not a qualification. The qualification is our greed for Krishna, for the spiritual life. So we're just happy with our lot in life. And that is the formula. So with that process, we have Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, and the chanting of the holy names, Krishna. So then we can take in Lord Brahma's vision, go back to Godhead, back to Krishna's abode in the material world. It will be nothing but a bad dream. Thank you very much. So do we have any questions or comments? Yeah.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much. I didn't fully understand why did Raghunatha refused all of his wealth. Can you please repeat, explain? I didn't fully.
So there's too much noise. Do you understand the question?
Why did?
Yeah. Well, because for him there was this nature, there was his guna and his karma that he didn't have time for it. So just like if you're full to capacity, just like Papa said, if your cup is full, then you haven't got time. Even if ink, I haven't seen this happen, but if you put a drop of ink in the cup, the ink spills over because the cup is full. So Raghunath Das was so absorbed in Krishna that anything to do with wealth was just a complete distraction for him, that he was like the ultimate renunciate. So this is a mindset that some people have. We can see, you probably know some people are very, very renounced, and they're very happy in their renunciation. But for us, if we try to follow down that path of renunciation, we become very, very agitated. Just like with me, I thought I've come to Mayapur, I will chant 32 rounds a day instead of 16 rounds. I will read the Shastra, and this way I'll become spiritualized. But it's very hard for me to do because I move around so much. So my philosophy is that a horse grows old staying in one spot, so I have to go somewhere and travel and just maintain my sadhana where it is. So we all have our different levels. But we can take, great solace in great souls like Raghunath, how far they get in their Krishna consciousness. We can follow in the footsteps, and he's one of the 6 Goswamis. So we are in the disciplic line of the 6 Goswamis. Make feast for devotees, yeah. So the question is, so Raghunath, he was getting so much wealth that he could have utilized that wealth in Krishna's service and fed all the devotees, and all the devotees would have been happy, but somehow or other he renounced it. The answer is that it was just not him, right? That he was a renunciate, and it was not his position to be taking his father's wealth, because his father was giving him this whole lot of wealth for him to use, but it's actually, he was a mendicant. That was not in his, it was a detraction. Sometimes like your parents, they see you're a devotee and you're not eating meat anymore, right? So then they will give you fish, and then you stop eating fish. Then they will give you eggs, right? But then you don't want to eat eggs anymore. And then they sort of put some garlic in, no garlic, no onions, and you cut it all out. And they're so mortified. Why are you doing this? So in the same way, he saw wealth was an obstruction. It was not his position to actually take up that thing where he's going to be, he's almost like a wealthy, almost he was like getting caught in that Maya's trap again, like he was this wealthy renunciate feeding everybody. And Lord Chaitanya was very pleased when he renounced that. Lord Chaitanya would also do that. He would not eat in anybody's place for too many days. He would go from one place to another like that. So that is the wealth that Raghunath was looking for, the renunciation. So therefore, this is a perfect example of how he shunned the material wealth. He considered that ultimately to be a material thing. One more question. Go on. Now the question is, go on.
Mataji is saying that if this particular service is distracting you from your spiritual advancement, but it is benefiting others, so should we give up that service, or what should we do?
Well, yeah, this is a balance, this is a decision that we have to make sometimes, yeah. I don't think, this was, of course, Raghunath was an extreme example of this, but then we sort of have our example that we have utilize our wealth. How do we utilize our wealth? We serve the Vaishnavas with our wealth, but at the same time, what is our real service? That we need to become Krishna conscious. So, so there is, it's all back to Yukta Vairagya, what we can utilize, what is favorable for Krishna's, for your advancement in Krishna service, what is unfavorable. It all depends. You have to make that decision, and you have your guru, and you have your sadhu, and you have your shastra, but ultimately it is your path that you are taking. So that's what's beneficial for you. Thank you.
Here in the purport, Prabhupada has mentioned that Krishna removes the poisonous pangs, that we have of accumulating wealth or all these material desires. So if I am unable to understand that if I have some material desires, some personal interest, and I'm practicing devotional service, so how is it that this personal interest will be removed through that same interest? I'm continuing my practice with this personal interest. So how is it that Krishna will remove that?
Well, we all have to interact in this age of Kali Yuga. We can't all be poor. Ultimately we have wives and children and grihastha lives, and so we have to make some plans. So it's just like sometimes the devotees, they are good brahmacharis here in Mayapur, and then they come to the west, they come to our farm, and then they get married, and they have nothing because they learn how to be good devotees, but they haven't learned how to interact in this material world. So sometimes they take jobs on the farm, sometimes they have to take jobs on the outside, do a course, learn all that. That is not material, that is just actually utilizing your abilities to stay in Krishna consciousness. That is, so this is why we have a variety. This is why we have Raghunath Das, then we have Ramananda Roy, and then we have King Pratiparudra. It was the job of King Pratiparudra to feed all the Vaishnavas. It wasn't the job of Raghunath Das. That's the answer. Okay? So sometimes we do what is in Bhagavad Gita it says that we do what is our prescribed duty. If we try to do somebody else's duty, then chaos happens. Then it becomes chaotic because we are not performing what our duty is, like that. So, is that all right? Thank you. Jai, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Ki Jai.